All right, there we go, round two. My name is Brian Jones. I'm the group program manager for a team called the Office Developer Platform. So our team owns the extensibility model across Office, SharePoint, Office 365. And the thing I'm here to talk about today are a lot of the new work that we've been doing over the past several years around opening Office up as a set of services that you can use when you're building productivity apps, mobile apps, web apps, apps inside of Office or apps outside of Office. And we're going to go through a bunch of that today. So with that, let me first go into a few key interesting stats, stuff that we get really excited about when we think about the Office platform. Office is that really interesting platform where about a third of developers out there do build on top of Office in one way or another, but it's not necessarily something people want to go and claim that they're an Office developer. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of it is Office, if you develop on Office, at times it can tend to be a very specific career decision just because of a lot of in the past, some of the challenges we've had version to version. There's a lot of subtleties you have to learn. The technologies for extending Office have never been that complex, like VBA, COM add-ins, and things like that. But if you look at things like the way that the APIs behave between different versions, at times it's been a little bit of a challenge. But we still do have a huge number of people building solutions on top of Office, and that's really because Office is the centerpiece for almost any business process. So almost any app that you're going to go and build that has to do with productivity, that has to do with how people are going to go and get work done, Office is going to play a role there. And we have seen over the past several years that a lot of the solutions people have built, they want to have them work with Office, integrate with Office, but it's just been a little bit too much of a challenge. It's much easier to go and stand up a website, deploy that thing, get it out there, just build a bunch of web forms than to go and integrate with like Outlook or Excel, for instance. We've seen a huge amount of growth in the cloud with Office 365, and that actually brings this huge new opportunity for developers. Because now you can go and have a single target in terms of versions of SharePoint, Exchange, Lync, even the clients. You don't have to worry about dealing with a whole bunch of different versions all at once. So the cloud actually gives some really interesting opportunities for developers. But we still recognize that the majority of our customers are still on-prem. And so as we go and look at the ways that people extend Office and use Office, we have to look at both the cloud as well as the on-prem world. One of the things that I'll get to a bit, and I hope is clear by the end of the talk, is how we are just continuing to improve the set of APIs that we go and expose. We had a new app model that we introduced in Office 2013, so it was about a year and a half ago, and there's already been a huge new set of APIs that we've come out with as part of SP1. We're constantly updating things in the cloud, and that's something that we're just going to keep going, and we'll be more and more clear about what that roadmap is and what you can plan for as you think about solutions on top of Office. So if you think about the journey really quickly before I get into some of the new things, Office has been an interesting development model for quite a while. If you think about even things like VBA, back in the day when there was more about individual productivity, you had a single user who was in Excel and they just wanted to be more productive. The fact that they could go and do things like macro recording, they could go and craft solutions, and they weren't necessarily a developer was hugely powerful. I know at times now VBA is a fun thing to scoff at because it's been around for so long, but it really did change the world. Almost like every customer meeting I have, I run into folks who say, I got my start in development through VBA. That's how I first learned. I recorded a macro, and that was my starting point to learning how to build solutions. So we were really proud of that, and we definitely want to keep that idea going forward. But we've recognized that the world has changed. The types of solutions people have built have changed. People don't care anymore about individual productivity, just making that one individual more productive. If you look at the set of solutions that people are investing in, if you look at IT budget and where the money goes, it's all about work group productivity, collaboration, getting a team of people working together. And that old model of things like VBA and COM add-ins inside of an individual app, that doesn't reflect to that new world where you want to get a whole group of people working together. And so we've really been rethinking the model over the past few years as we've made that shift to the cloud and thinking about how Office can be a rich set of services, APIs in the cloud that can be used to help make those solutions people are building more collaborative, have better communication, better creation of documents and content. And that's the big thing I'll talk about today. So the first thing I want to do is show a bit of a demo that touches on a couple different pieces of the model. And this is just to go and kind of get some of the conversation started in a way. So the first thing, let me switch my device here. And hopefully this thing projects. Great. I am on, I've got an Android device here. This is just a Nexus device. And I have an app here that's my Contoso, or my campaign management app. So in this scenario, I work for a marketing company. We go and have a bunch of campaigns that we manage. I'm one of the managers. And I have this app from my device where I can go and quickly check on the status of the different campaigns. So I can see that there's one campaign here that's pending my approval. I'm Dorena. I can go and flip around and see that there's a few campaigns that are in progress. If I want to, I can go and click on one of those campaigns, and it'll go and bring that up for me in the browser. And the key thing is, each one of these campaigns is backed by a SharePoint site. Every new campaign that we create, a SharePoint site's created. And in fact, if I go back to this, my app here, the entire flow here around approving campaigns, managing those sets of campaigns, that's all managed through SharePoint. That's all information that's in SharePoint. And I built this custom app, not me, the VP, but me and a few folks like for the demo, built this custom app that talks to Office 365 and SharePoint as a set of services. So it's an Android app that's talking to Office 365 services. It's able to go and show me that information from SharePoint, but give it to me in a nice consumable way on this device. We just have a set of RESTful services that you can go and call for things like Exchange, SharePoint. You can get it document libraries. You can get it mail, calendar. You can all do that from this device. And I'll talk a bit more about the things we're doing around building richer SDKs to make this even easier so people can go and build these mobile device apps. So I can go here and see what campaigns are in progress. One of the things I'm going to do, though, is flip back to my machine here. First, I'll show the list. So here's just the SharePoint list. Let me zoom in a little bit there so folks can see it. This is that list of campaigns. So this is how that app was going and calling into and deciding what to go and project. And it looked at the values in that list to decide what was pending, what was approved. And then there's a workflow behind it once the thing gets approved. And so what I'm going to do is show a flow around how I go and create a new campaign, request for a new campaign. And I'm going to do that from within Outlook. And a key thing here that I'm trying to get across in this scenario is that typically solutions aren't going to be in any one place. They go across devices, across endpoints and experiences. And so this solution, you're going to see it's going to show up inside of Outlook. We already saw it in SharePoint. We had this Android device that was showing, and I even have a Windows Phone app that's going to go and connect to that same solution. So here I am in Outlook. And in Outlook, we made it possible now for you to go and extend the experiences inside of, this is the Outlook web app. So this is just an HTML app. We made it so that you can go and extend Outlook just using HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And that works in the Outlook web app as well as the Outlook Rich client. So just an example of that, I have this mail that I got from Contoso Images. They want to go and have me create a new campaign. And just to show an example of an app, for instance. So here I am in this mail. They went and sent me a form that they want me to go and sign and fax back to them about the campaign. I'm going to go and launch an app here that's this DocuSign app. And this is an app that we worked on with the DocuSign folks. It shows up inside of Outlook. It shows up inside of Outlook, inside of Word, inside of Excel. And it just lets you go and quickly, if you get an attachment like this, you can go and click on the attachment. You can say you want to go and sign it. DocuSign is going to go and render that right for you inside of Outlook. And then rather than me having to go and print this thing up, sign it, fax it back, I can just go scroll down to where I'm supposed to sign, say I want to insert my signature, go and drag, drop that right there, and just reply back, right? So really lightweight, simple, easy example of an app. The DocuSign guys built this pretty quickly because it's just using HTML and JavaScript. So they already have a bunch of this stuff working on their site already today, and they were able to just go and integrate that into Outlook. So back to the actual demo. For this Contoso Images, what I want to do is create a new campaign based on this recommendation that they have. So they have some new cool program about their image technology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and reply to these Contoso guys just to let them know that we're going to go and approve or I'm going to go and request that their campaign get approved. And I'm going to go and insert another app. So this is an app that my IT group built that lets me go and submit new campaign requests. So this is an app running inside of Outlook, but it talks back to SharePoint. I'm going to go and say, Contoso campaign. Looks like a great idea. I can go and pick who the approvers are. I could even go and attach a document if I want to. And it's going to go and call off to those SharePoint APIs. It's going to go and create a new campaign request, and then it'll also go and call back into Outlook and put some more information into that mail. So that app was able to go and interact with Outlook, interact with the mail, and also call off to SharePoint to create a new campaign request. So now if I come back to my Android device here, actually let's do the Windows Phone device first for approval. So now that I have this new campaign request, I'm here on my phone. I can go here, click on Contoso Marketing, and now we see the set of pending approvals. That enterprise campaign's still there, but this Contoso campaign's there as well. I can go and click on that campaign. I can say I want to approve, and now it knows that me as Alex on this phone has approved it. If I now go and flip back to the Android device, Dorena, the VP, we'll see there's that new campaign, the Contoso campaign. You can see Alex has approved it. I'm going to go and hit approve. That's now going to call back to SharePoint. It's going to continue that workflow. The workflow that was written in SharePoint knows what those different stages of approval are. And so now when I go over to see the list of campaigns in progress, now the Contoso campaign shows up there as a campaign that's in progress. I can go and click on that link. There's a set of APIs that it called in SharePoint that automatically provision a new site for that campaign. It has a document library, it has a project timeline that it can go and do. And so all of that was tied together. So you have this one solution that is tying together these different devices, Outlook, and SharePoint, all to achieve that kind of overall goal of helping these people go and collaborate, work together to manage these set of campaigns. It's cool. Thank you. I appreciate applause, even though it wasn't evenly distributed. That was still okay. I know everybody else was cheering on the inside, and I can sense that. I have that capability. It's so. Sometimes it goes down though, so you can still applaud too. That didn't get you off the hook from applauding. So let me go and show a couple, just like a little bit of the details of how this was set up. So if you want to think of the app itself, like the solution, where that was running, the solution is actually just running in Azure. It's running off in Azure. In fact, let me go and show you the list here. Let me go and probably have to reboot or refresh here. So we've done a lot of work with the Azure folks to make it so that when you go and build a solution, Azure is the premier place to go and have your logic, your data, all of that stuff run. And then just with simple things like OAuth and providing these RESTful services on Office 365, just like that device was able to go and talk to SharePoint, your Azure app is able to go and talk to SharePoint and integrate with SharePoint. So you can go and build and deploy your app into Azure. It means that you can go and take advantage of all of that great new stuff that the Azure team is building. So all the things you'll see like in the keynote tomorrow, for instance, right? That stuff's all available to you. Whereas in the past, if you were a SharePoint developer, let me just go and probably have to log in again. In the past, if you were a SharePoint developer, you were kind of stuck, like most people would go and build right onto that box where SharePoint was running. Maybe you were running inside of the sandbox that we'd go and build, but you were kind of limited to what we would go and provide, what tools we would go and give. Instead, what we've tried to do is have this much more loosely coupled model where all your solution runs off in Azure, and then it just integrates into SharePoint. It uses SharePoint as a rich set of data services as it can consume, and as an endpoint where you can go and surface information to users. The thing I love about this is like if you've played around with Azure, like I don't know how many if folks have built many solutions in Azure, but the management console that they're providing, the set of solutions they have, how you can go and scale up really quickly, you can go and get a dedicated VM if that solution is super powerful, you can go and use things like the mobile communication services. I actually didn't show this in that app, but at every stage of that workflow, the Android device was getting a notification, and that was just using the Azure notification services. So they have a whole bunch of stuff they do that really just takes care of that for folks. And obviously their portal is usually extremely fast, and there's something going on right now. So I'll skip showing that part. But rest assured, it's really, really awesome. All right. So the Office 365 platform, how do we think of it? What are the different components of it? Well, the first one's clearly those rich APIs that you can go and use to build any device app you want and have it connect to Office 365. We've done work to make it easy on Android. It's going to obviously be easy on Windows Phone. We're going to do more and more to make it easier on iOS. But at the end of the day, it's just a set of RESTful services, so you can go and access that from anywhere on any device. And we'll go and do more and more stuff around SDKs and richer tooling and whatnot. But if you really think about it, this is a huge change for how people think about Office. Most of the time when people have thought about solutions in Office, it's really more about Office as the host for your solution. You're just trying to get in there and run inside of Office. And so there's a little bit of a mind shift folks are going to go through thinking about Office as a rich set of services that you go and consume for your own apps. And for us, it's really exciting given the big shift you're seeing around these device apps. Most apps still on devices are essentially all about individual consumption. They're really more consumer apps. It's still games, Netflix, things like that, right? But as we're seeing this move to bring your own device and people bringing their devices to work, clearly they're going to do more with those devices at work than just check their email, which is kind of what they're stuck with now, checking their email and then playing whatever random game, Minecraft, because it's their own device. So what we think of is those set of productivity apps that people build, clearly we're not going to be the ones, we as Office aren't going to go and build every interesting mobile productivity app, because they're going to be point solutions, just like you see in the consumer space. There's going to be a huge swath of solutions that people go and build. Some of them will be tailored for a specific company or for a specific industry. And what we want to do is provide a rich set of services that those devices can use so they feel connected. If you're building a productivity app that has anything to do with time management, you want to connect to the person's Exchange calendar. Otherwise, that app is just going to feel like it's on an island. The person's going to say, bullshit, this has nothing to do with time management because you have no connection to how I manage my time. And so for us, we've seen people try to do this already, and we're really going to go and light this up, make this much easier, make it much easier to go and connect, authenticate, and run against these services. The other thing, though, is we do still recognize that Office is a rich set of endpoints, like Excel, Word, Outlook, SharePoint. And so we do want to make it so that it's super easy to go and get your experiences inside of Office. Like the example that I just had, that demo that I walked through, when somebody's inside of like Word and they're working on one of those marketing campaigns, or they're inside of PowerPoint, you want to bring that context into the application. Just like in Outlook, where I had that they could go and create that new request for a new campaign, you want that same type of thing inside of Word, inside of PowerPoint. And so we've made it so that it's very easy to go and extend the Office clients just using HTML, JavaScript. It's a model that we called App for Office. It was something we introduced in 2013, and it's something we're going to continue to make big strides on. And we've made it so that really building a solution for Office and deploying it is just as easy as building and deploying a web page. You don't have to install bits onto the user's machine. You just create a web server that has your HTML and JavaScript, and Office will go and point to that and pull that information down. And then, of course, we're doing a ton of work around tooling to make this better and better. And the Visual Studio guys have done some amazing stuff. So let me go and talk a little bit about the work that we're doing around the mobile apps. So I've got a little, actually, let me show you, because I bet, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the project we've done up on GitHub. So let me go there. So we have an open source project that's up on GitHub that is an SDK for Office 365 APIs. We pushed this up there about a month ago. And anybody who's building an Android device that wants to connect to Office 365 services, they can go and use this, and it makes it super easy to go and connect to those services, consume them, program against them. I have an app that I went and worked with the team that actually went and built this SDK that I want to show you. This is a demo app that's actually up on that GitHub project. I'll show that to you in a sec. And what this app does is it goes and it uses that Android SDK, and it goes and connects to my O365 tenant, and it gets my mail information and my calendar information. Oh man, I had this problem with it before. I got to log into it again really quick. And that means I have to switch back because it's touch type, you'll see my password. And I don't want to do that. But basically what this app will do is it's going to go and hold on. I can't do two things at once. just think about some really cool stuff. Okay, so this actually gives me a chance to show one of the pieces of this. So when I go and log into this app wasn't built for me. It didn't know anything about me. It was built for anybody who uses Office 365. When I go and enter my login information, the app calls off to our service, our discovery service, and it says, here are the types of permissions I want. And you can see that the person who built this app decided that they wanted God rights to my data. And so they asked for just about everything. And then I, as a user, can decide if I want to go and grant that app permission. So I'm going to go and say, OK. And this app then has an ID. It's registered in Azure AD. And now that I've gone and granted that app permission, it gets a token. It's just using OAuth. So now it gets a token that it can use to call off and get at my calendar information. One of the key things that we saw was that, especially on the SharePoint side, but even on the Exchange side, people have things like vanity domains. You don't quite know what the URL for their service is going to be. And so we have one discovery service, one single point you as an app developer can call, just api.office.com. You get the user's email address. You call off to that. If the user grants you access, we'll then go and return a pointer to you based on what you want. So if you want to get their calendar, if you want to get their OneDrive documents, their SharePoint sites, we'll go and take care of all of that for you. So it makes it much easier for you to go and build that mobile device that the user can then just go and log into. So this app goes, it's still showing. It goes and pulls my calendar information. And what I can do with this app, it already stopped showing. So let me see if this actually works. What I can do with this app, which is kind of fun, I wanted to do this anyways, I can go and launch the camera. And I can go and take a picture. So we got a picture of our crowd of super enthusiastic, excited people. And you can see here when I click on this picture, there's this, on the share button, next to the share button, there's this little Office widget. So that app went and registered for the share icon. And when I go and click on the share, it's going to go and launch the app, send that picture. The app's going to say, uploading picture. It uploaded it successfully. I could go and upload some more pictures. And now if I switch back here, let's go and look on my calendar. And so what this app did is it went and said, OK, whenever you take a picture, I'm going to go and look and see what you have going on, what you're doing. And I'm just going to go and attach that picture to your calendar item. Right? Kind of cool? Kind of simple? Yeah? A little bit of... All right. I know it's really hard. Thank you, though. Nice, like super simple, lightweight app. This is using that SDK. And you can see that there's going to start to be a lot more creativity around how people think about how do I go and use Office data, write to Office data, read Office data, to start to do some interesting stuff on these different mobile devices. So it's not just about playing games anymore. It's really about how do we build apps that help people get work done and connect to all of their information about work. So let me continue on. By the way, that app, if you guys are curious, you can go and actually play around with that app. Just if you go to the GitHub project where you can go and get the SDK, all the source for that app is up there as well. You can go and play around and look at it. It's a nice, simple app. You can see how you go and register to handle the sharing gesture, how you go and get an app ID. So if I went off to Azure AD for that app, I could go and see the app ID. And then I also have that ability to go and, as the admin of the O365 site, I can go and see what are the different apps that have access to my data. So the robust Office 365 APIs, that's just what we went over. Right now, the thing that we had announced at SharePoint Conference, this key set of APIs are documents, mail, calendar, people. That was the first wave. That's what's available now in preview, and you can go and use that right now. Anybody who has Office 365, that's all exposed. In fact, an easy way of, if you just want to go and check it out really quick, like a really easy way is just, if you go to your OneDrive, can see your set of documents, you can just go and say underscore API whack files. So just at the end of your OneDrive URL, and you'll see there's that RESTful call you get back. I'm sure you can all see that because it's really nice, tiny font. But essentially, this just gives you a nice RESTful set of information that comes back. It's actually OData that lets you go and scan the set of documents in the OneDrive. There was actually a question? Yeah. That's a great question. The question was, when do we expect to have JavaScript libraries for connecting to this set of APIs? We don't have a date on that yet. There's actually, we'll start to get more clear about the timeline. We're also looking at, the things that we have is Android, .NET. We're looking at JavaScript, iOS, also things like Node.js. JavaScript and iOS are probably the ones that we're most excited about getting to first, but we don't have a date on it yet. But it's something that we're trying to move on quick. Great question. Feel free to shout out questions, too. We're a nice, intimate bunch. I have no problem answering questions. That's why I'm here. OK. And again, the key thing for us here is really, if you are building productivity apps for devices and you're not connecting to O365, people are going to start to feel like those apps are disconnected. They're going to feel like they're a bit on an island because it doesn't connect to the rest of the data that they use. So some interesting sessions to go and check out related to that stuff. The SharePoint Power Hour Rob Howard's doing tomorrow. You should definitely go and check that out. He'll show much more information about building those apps. There's also a great session around building social apps that connect to Yammer. The Cloud Business App session, which is later on today, I believe, that Beth is doing. The stuff that Visual Studio has done, some of the templates that they've done to help you go and connect to enterprise data and mashing up your enterprise data with your SharePoint data, really fascinating, great stuff. And then on Friday, if you haven't seen the OneNote APIs that were also released about a month ago, it's really powerful stuff, and so I definitely suggest checking that out. So now let's go and show really quickly a couple things that Visual Studio is doing to make things a bit easier here for connecting the services. So when I went and, let me see if this ever came up. Hey, it's still going. If I just refresh. So what I can't show you, but I'll describe is, in order for that Android app to work, the thing you had to do is, as the developer of the app, you had to go and register it in Azure AD. And that's what we do from the Office 365 side. That's how we manage access to the data. So we use Azure AD. The app would get registered in Azure AD. You as the developer would go and get an app ID, right? And you'd go and then also request the set of services you want to connect to. Things like Exchange Calendar, Exchange Mail, whether or not you need read-only access or read-write. There's a bunch of scopes that you can go and request for your app. You go and put that all in Azure AD. And then, of course, in your project, then your app, you then go and use that ID so that when you go and when the user specifies their email and you call off, you can go and use that Azure AD, understands what are the scopes you're looking for, and then that's how it handles the OAuth, giving you the token that gets you the access to all of that. So for the for the Android side, the SDK makes it much easier to go and deal with the APIs, but you still have to do all that registration in Azure AD yourself. For Visual Studio, there is a new solution that let me go and create a new project here to show. So let's just go and create a basic MVC app. So this will be an ASP.NET Web application. We'll call it the build demo. Let's do an MVC app. I'm not going to deal with authentication because people aren't going to be logging into my app. They're logging into O365. So this is Visual Studio, which is going to create the basic, using the project template for an MVC app. And then there's a new preview that was built by the Visual Studio team that you can go and download. That is the Office 3, I'll show it when I bring it up. I think it's called the Office 365 API. Well, let me go and show it because I'll butcher the name. The Office 365 API Tools Preview. So that's a thing you can go and download. And this actually allows Visual Studio to go and automatically configure your app to connect to the Office 365 APIs. It'll go and do all the work with Azure AD. And so what I can do in this solution, this MVC app that I built, I can just go and say I want to add a new connected service. I'll need to sign in. And then what's going to do is it's going to call off to Office 365 and see what are the different scopes that I can use. So let's say I want to connect to Exchange. I could do Exchange or SharePoint. If I want to get it documents, I'll do Exchange and get it some calendar information. It'll go and show me the different scopes. Let me zoom in here so you can see this. It'll show those different scopes that I can request. So whether or not I want to access to contacts, calendar, mail, read only, read write. So let's go and say I want to get at full access to the calendar and full access to mail, but I won't ask for access to contacts. Hit OK. And then this tool is going to automatically go and add a few additional views and controls to my MVC solution. So let me go and it's actually getting goes and gets a few NuGet packages. It's going to go and automatically register that app, so it's going to get an app ID, register that in Azure AD for me, and then create a couple sample views for connecting to Exchange. So you can see here now that we have this Exchange. Let me zoom in again. We have this Exchange sample, a few views that were created. There's also this Exchange sample controller. And so what I can do is, let me just go. So let me just go and F5 this. I'll just start right from that view. So just like that, it went and created a nice view for me. It's going to go and allow me to connect to Exchange. The thing that I wanted to show too, but given the bad luck I've had with the Azure portals, I wanted to go and show that it automatically got registered there. But you have to take my word for it, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get access to this data. And now what I can do is it gave me just a simple page. It lets me go and click on Calendar. You can see we're getting that login, so that handshake. And there's that list of calendar items. So my little MVC app just running here on localhost, called out to O365, was able to see the list of calendar items, and went and displayed those for me. That's cool. That is very cool. I can go and click on Mail, and I'll see the mail. And then the other thing that's kind of fun is, you remember when the scopes we asked just for calendar and mail. We didn't ask for contacts. And so the VS tool is not that smart. It just goes and has a generic one that it goes and creates when you're going and connecting to Exchange. But since we didn't actually ask for permission to get to contacts, when I go and click on the contacts, you'll see that access is denied because my app was not, the app did not request that, right? So it's a really nice, simple way of seeing, like, there's a set of granular permissions that you can go in as a developer request, and then the user can decide whether or not they want to grant your app those permissions to those different sets of data. So very cool stuff. The work the VS team, like, so we're from Office land, and man, we are so pumped about the stuff that the VS team does for us, like the set of tooling that they've done. Like I said, if you check out the Cloud Business Apps demo later on today, just fascinating, great stuff. It makes it so easy to get going. The experience of working on building this thing in Eclipse, I don't know, it wasn't like terrible, but man, it's just so much easier using Visual Studio. Just a much better experience. I'll put it that way. So let me get back to my presentation. So, bunch of great flexible tools the VS guys are building. Another thing that folks may not be familiar with, there's actually not I don't believe that there's a session this week on Access, but Access has actually really reinvented itself recently. So Access is now, when you use Access to build a solution, that's actually an app. That's a SharePoint app. All the data for those gets stored up in SQL Azure. And so Access is really, it allows end users, information workers, to go and build these apps. So it's a really powerful thing. And if you haven't learned about that yet, I definitely suggest going and watching some of like the webcasts. There were some great sessions at SharePoint Conference that are available on Channel 9 that you can go and check out. And then again, the related session is the CBA, the Cloud Business Apps session that I believe is later on today. So now let's talk about really quick, the extending of Office. So I already showed how you could go and extend Outlook. There is that DocuSign app that showed up, as well as that custom app. And this is something we're going to see a lot of. There's going to be a mix of apps that come from the store that ISVs build, like DocuSign. But really, Office's bread and butter has always been internal apps. Office and SharePoint, really, it's the majority of the solutions built on top of our platform are internal apps. And so that second example I gave in Outlook, where you went and did the request for the marketing campaign, that was just an internal app that was built. You can also extend Word, Excel. Like, just to give you an example here, so let me go into Excel. Right here from Excel, I can go and say I want to insert an app. I can go and view the store, and I can see what interesting apps there are that are coming from the store. There's also a set of apps that we just have essentially pre-installed that I can go and use. So there's a Bing Map app. If I go and insert this, just like an Outlook, it's just using HTML and JavaScript, so this is just a Bing Map sitting there running inside of Excel, just like a chart would. It can go and talk to Excel, so I can go and say insert sample data. It's going to go and write some data into Excel. The app is now bound to this, and so if I go and change any of these values, like let's say instead of London, I want to say San Francisco. Hit return, you'll see now the app updates and San Francisco shows over there. So again, it's just HTML and JavaScript running here. This time I'm in the rich client, in the Excel rich client, but Excel has a set of JavaScript APIs that are exposed to that app that let that app interact with Excel. In this case, it was something built by the Bing team, but you can also imagine that the HTML that's coming down for this solution is just being served up by that same internal solution, that marketing campaign solution, for instance. It could show up in line, it could show up as a task pane, but it's just a really easy, simple way of connecting to the Office-rich clients. So if you want people to work with data, you don't have to go and build some kind of crappy web form table. Just go and use Excel. That's the best tool in the world for dealing with data. Just go and integrate with Excel instead. But you still have the easy deployment that you get from when you're working with the web. We've also got SharePoint, of course. You extend the SharePoint experience. And a new thing that we added for SP1, which just shipped recently, is that you can go and extend PowerPoint now with those apps in line. So an example, when we made the launch, we worked with a partner of ours, Poll Anywhere. Let me go and show you their website really quick, in case folks haven't heard of it. Poll Anywhere. Or Poll Everywhere. Can't remember which one. Poll Everywhere. Thankfully, they got both domains, so it worked out okay. So Poll Everywhere, they've been around for a while. They have a website. They allow you to, what you can do is you can use their website to go and create polls that you then go and display like when you're in a room like this, and people can SMS in the results of their poll. This has been around for a while. When we went and did the work to add apps into PowerPoint, we went and met with the Poll Anywhere guys. Poll Everywhere. Shoot, sorry. Get that every time. And literally, in the matter of a few weeks, they went and packaged up their solution, built it into an app, put it into the Office store, and it was available in the store when we released PowerPoint SP1. And so I'll show it to you right now. If I go here, I had the set of different things where you can go and extend, different endpoints you can extend. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and insert the app. So I've got my apps. There's the Poll Everywhere app. I'm going to go and insert that right into PowerPoint. Say it's a multiple choice because we have 5 choices there. Create new poll. And I need audience participation here for folks that have a phone and don't mind SMSing. Whoop. Just go and text. So if you text to this number 22333, And if you put in the value that you find most interesting, so if you like Outlook, just text 590-337-222-333. Oh, my machine, oh, there we go, there's one. So you can see there, so it's the Poll Anywhere guys embedded their website essentially as an app. It's running right there inside the PowerPoint Rich client. And like I said, just in a few weeks, they were able to go and take that and put it up into the store. It's really kind of cool. Thank you. And thank you for the participation. People are more willing to, well, actually, that was good applause. I was going to say people are more willing to text than just put their hands together. But that's actually pretty good participation. Thank you very much for that. But it's cool. Actually, I never know, like I've done this demo now 2 times, and like I want to just stay on here for a long time because I love watching the data move, but I kind of have to move on. But it looks like Outlook and SharePoint are the winners, which is a sad irony that PowerPoint is the loser even though it's the PowerPoint app that we're showing. Sometimes I hope that that's going to make them get a little bit more of a boost. All right. So contextual apps. Like I said, the big shift, this has kind of been the bread and butter for Office development for a long time. Office has been all about VBA, add-ins, managed solutions in SharePoint, and really it's always been about getting your solution into Office. And so most folks kind of get this and from a scenario point of view. So the new thing here isn't as much around the scenario, it's the technologies. How much easier we make it to go and extend. The fact that you can really go and use modern technologies, you can just go and build, just like building a web page, a web solution, that's how you can go and extend Office, which is a huge deal. Now, it's not that huge ground shift that the first piece was around the rich APIs and the idea of building apps that are completely outside of Office where the user might not even know they're in Office, but still powered by Office services. That's the really big shift for us. This one, though, it's been super important for us for a long time, and it's going to continue to be important. We're going to keep making progress and innovating here, too. And SP1 was just one example of that. We introduced this for the first time in 2013, a year and a half ago. SP1, we added new APIs. We added the ability to go embed them inside of PowerPoint. So you can see we're going to keep innovating there. And that's something we haven't done in the past. Traditionally, SP releases do not have new features and functionality. It's more about fixing security, bug fixes, things like that. And so you can see that we are being much more aggressive in terms of getting solutions out there and extending the model. Some related sessions, the SharePoint Power Hour, again, we'll get into both sides, both the services as well as extending SharePoint. There's a great session that is Jeremy's actually here. Is it tomorrow night? Yes, tomorrow night. It's a late night session, so I'm sure there'll be disco ball and all that fun stuff around SharePoint apps using AngularJS. Really cool session. And then on Friday, the very beginning of the day Friday is a great talk from Andrew on Outlook and extending Outlook if you really want to get into that. And given the results of the poll, it sounds like a lot of people are interested in that, so you should go check that out. And then at the very end of the day, the last session slot of the week is Rolando closing things off with the Office Power Hour and going into more about the overall extensibility model there inside of the clients. So let's go to lifecycle. And I need to, yep, all right. So actually, I like this next slide a little bit better. We've focused a lot on, we've done this over and over again, and we continue to try and get better about how you deploy solutions to Office. We've changed dramatically how you even just deploy Office. Like if you're familiar with like the new click-to-run deployment, how easy it is to just go and stream the rich clients down to any device. And we've also looked a lot about how do people manage solutions on top of Office. If you think back to the days of like VBA, old Access solutions, where especially from an IT point of view, you had no idea what people were doing. We would talk to IT folks that would go and say, no, I totally know exactly what my users are doing, but then you go and meet with the actual business units and you see what they're actually doing, and clearly the IT guys had no clue what was really going on. And it was just that if you think about the key things that we were focused on back in the days of VBA, it was like, how do we optimize the speed to which Office can save to a floppy drive, right? Like there were just different things that we were prioritizing. We focused a lot more on giving IT visibility into the set of solutions that are there, just so that they can be aware. So if there's something that finance is now using that's super important and it might blow up at some point, IT needs to be prepared for that. And also to make it really easy to go and get new things out. So if you want to get one of those apps out to users, there's an app catalog, just runs in SharePoint. It's a single list. You can go and put a manifest for any app you want to go and deploy. You just go and throw it into that list, and now every user that has a rich client in your organization is going to go and see that app as well. So there's one single distribution mechanism that you can go and you can decide if you want to completely lock it down. We hope that doesn't happen. Or you can have it wide open and just you have that visibility, though, so you can be a little more comfortable with having it wide open. And then there's the store. And the store is all about ISVs building solutions that they want to go and sell and distribute broadly. And we've seen the Office store is different than like the Windows store or the phone store, right? Because again, it's not about these kind of like selling to a single individual consumer. And we've seen a lot of our partners who they don't sell their solutions through the store. They have a kind of basic version of their solution they put in the store, and it's a lead generator for them. And we've seen a lot of partners who have gotten huge deals in enterprises where the enterprise has found their solution, started using it, and then they make that contact with the partner. Because at the end of the day, any of these solutions usually have some level of customization, right? Because every company's business processes are slightly different. That's why they're willing to spend so much money on these solutions in the first place, right? Like the way you run your business, like how you go and deal with your supply chain, or how you go and deal with your customers, like that's your IP. That's what makes you competitive. That's what makes you better than the next guy. And so the odds of you going and buying a product straight off the shelf without having some customization to it is very low for anything that has to do with your business process. And so we recognize that, and we'll continue to do work in the store to make that scenario much easier, to go and create those partnerships between the business and the developer. Continuous innovation. So last year, we had the first round of the app model come out, some great tooling. This year, we added the PowerPoint apps, contextual apps. So now it used to be that you could only have apps in Outlook when you're reading mail. Now when you're writing mail, the apps can show up, and I showed that. And more work around the tooling, and of course the Office 365 APIs, the robust APIs. In the future, we're going to continue to look at adding more endpoints. You've seen some really great announcements around all of the different devices Office is now running on. We're going to continue to focus on that. The whole point of this new app model being based on HTML, JavaScript was that we knew Office was going broader, and it wasn't just about Win32 Office, and we needed an app model that could run wherever Office does. And so we'll continue to focus on adding new endpoints and making it so that when you build an app, it can go work anywhere that Office works. And the Office 365 APIs, like the list that I mentioned to you was just basic, document, calendar, mail. But like, man, there's some competitors that just do document and that's it, right? Like, for us, that's just the basics. There's a lot more that we'll focus on. We have a lot of intelligence about the documents. And if you saw, I don't know if folks saw the announcement that we made at SharePoint Conference around the Office Graph, the ability to go and Office can now relate the different entities that you interact with in Office. And the Office Graph the code name was Oslo. Or actually, official name is Oslo. I can't remember if that's still a code name or if it's official. I think it's code name. It allows you to go and really quickly navigate through the different entities. And there's some interesting things that they can do. Like, if they know that you were in a meeting at the same time as somebody else, they can figure out what was presented in that meeting, who had PowerPoint and slideshow mode. And so then when you go and interact with that meeting, you can see, well, what was the presentation that was given, right? And being able to go and relate all of those things. And so we'll continue to focus on the APIs being a key way that you can go and navigate through the Office Graph. Another key thing that we're doing is just looking at how do our services go and connect to other services better. And here's a little, I won't show it in action because it's, I'll show the results of it. Folks familiar with if this then that? Yeah? A little bit? If this then that is like crazy cool, especially if you just kind of like kind of geeking out on things. Like, it is so much fun. So if this and that is, it's pretty straightforward. It allows you to go and create what they call recipes based on triggers. And so if I go to the set of channels, for instance, just to kind of go and show some examples. Let me zoom out a little bit because now that's crazy big. I can go and say things like, what are some of the fun ones they integrate with? Like the Wemo light switches. Like I can go and say, hey, if I shut the light switch off, go and send a tweet. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but as an example. And what we've done is we've worked with the IFT guys, and this is just still in preview right now. And so this is, if you go to IFT, you won't see these channels, but we hope to make them available soon. But we went and plugged into IFT. And so now Office has a set of channels using those O365 APIs. And so I've got a channel for mail, contacts preview. And so what I could do is I could go and create like a new recipe. So let's go say, I could say create recipe. So if this, go and pick my mail channel. So I could say if I get a high importance email, or if I get a mail from a certain person. So that would be my trigger. And then I can decide, well, what do I want to do with that? And I actually had a recipe that I went and created, so I'll show you guys that. My recipes. I have my just experimenting with the competitors one. So if something happens in Dropbox, go and post it to Evernote. But then I've got my one that's actually useful. And that is, if I get an email from Contoso Images, so when we go back to that marketing scenario again, Contoso Images is my customer, and I want to say, you know, whenever I get an email from them, I'm actually going to go and start collaborating with my group, and I want to go and create a OneNote page right away that everybody in my group can go and work on. So OneNote and their APIs, which you should go and check out on Friday, is also a channel for IFT. So this recipe runs, so anytime I get an email from Contoso, it's going to go and create a OneNote. So now if I go here, let me go to my OneDrive. So that email that we got, let me go, where's that? I'll show you the email, the most recent email that we received. So I got that email from Contoso talking about new headshot service they were requesting. If I go to my OneNote, you'll see here is a new page that was created in OneNote for Contoso Images new headshot service. So I went and in IFT, I just said, hey, if I receive a mail, go and create a new OneNote, make the title, a new page, make the title of it the sender name and the subject, and then dump the message in, and now I can go and start using OneNote to go and take notes about it. So really nice, super simple, but like really cool. Again, like that power of Office 365 services being exposed and now being connectors to other services. And again, I know that was one where you guys are applauding on the inside because it's really, really cool. I don't know yet when we'll be able to go and provide that IFT channel to other folks, but at some point, once we get it so that it's actually the APIs themselves are still in preview too, so there's a little bit of a hard thing there. But at some point, what we'll probably do is even while the APIs are in preview, we'll probably make it so that we'll blog and give a link so that people can go and activate that channel. The key thing that we don't want to just do is just go and open it up wide open to all of the IFT customers because the APIs are in preview and that means things may be subject to change. But for folks that actually understand that and just want to go and play and have a lot of fun, we want to go and make that available. So we'll go and do that hopefully soon. Okay, so calls to action. Go check out the new preview APIs. Clearly this deck will be posted, so the fact that it says articles and there's a hyperlink behind that, don't panic. Like we'll be able to go and get at it. But if you want one URL to go and get at, which unfortunately isn't even on this page, it's just dev.office.com. Let me go and show that to you. This is the page to go and learn all about the new APIs. So dev.office.com. Let me zoom in because it's obviously going to go and redirect once I go and click it. But dev.office.com, then it'll go and give you, it'll go from being a nice URL to an ugly URL. And here's where you can go and learn about the new Office 365 APIs. You can go and see some really cool, fun little videos that are totally dev-friendly, animated cartoons that talk about apps for Office, apps for SharePoint. And the other thing, though, that I really want to get across on this slide is we as a group, my team, we really want to engage actively in the community. And so there's a few key ways we do that. One is user voice. I don't know if people are familiar with user voice. It's a website that you can go to. We have a channel essentially set up in user voice, and you can go and recommend new features. If you want better documentation in a certain area, if you want code snippets, if there's a bug you hate, if you want us to make authentication easier, anything like that, just go and put it up there. And then everybody in the community can go and vote on the ideas, vote them up or down. And then my team, we're constantly reviewing those, and we'll get back to folks on those, especially the ones that get voted up. I'm not saying that we can do everything, but we'll at least, if we don't think we can do it, we'll talk about why. Either the timing's not quite right, or maybe it's just something that we don't think really fits with the model, but we'll try and be clear on that. And we also use that as good indication to us where we need to communicate better. So user voice is a great place to go to put suggestions. And then Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is where we're going to go and focus on answering questions. All of my PMs will go and review Stack Overflow, and that's where we're going to be actively engaged in terms of questions for folks. And actually, we announced at SharePoint Conference, there were actually a bunch of features that we went and put into SP1 that were some of the top ones in user voice. And so like a lot of them really around the new SharePoint app model, and some of the things you used to be able to do on-prem that you couldn't do in the new model yet, and we've started to add more of that functionality, and we're using user voice as a key way of tracking that. So, wrapping it up, feedback's really important. I'm really interested to hear about the things that you care about, don't care about, how we can go and make the conversation better, what are the key things we can do as we're presenting this information. There's a lot of new stuff in terms of how we think about Office Developer, and so your feedback, please give it to me. I really look forward to that. And with that, we've got a little time for questions, but folks can head out if they want, and I'll stay around to answer questions too. So thank you very much. So the questions around the Office 365 APIs and the timeline for bringing the on-prem servers. We don't have a timeline on that yet. One of the things that we did announce at SharePoint Conference was that there will be another version of the on-prem servers, right? The key things around it that we have to sort through is it's really around the authentication, because we rely on Azure AD for that authentication, and so it still may be a thing where there's a little bit of a hybrid story where you still use Azure AD in terms of registering the app and the set of scopes that you need, but then it can access on-prem. But we don't have the answer to that one yet, but it's one of the top ones. We have actually a group of folks on our team thinking specifically about our on-prem story. Yep.
So kind of going along with that, I have a client doing SharePoint 0365D. Is the SharePoint APIs available for that?
For O365D, so the folks that are currently on D, it's not. There is work that's going on for D folks in terms of migrating them to essentially the new platform, right? Not just in terms of the APIs, but like all of the new features. And so once that migration happens, then they would be available, but right now they're not.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, thanks. And folks can just come up and ask me questions too if they want. But I'll turn the microphone off. Again, thank you.